And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm pumped. I gotta first say that today's the anniversary of a very special moment in New York sports history. Super Bowl 46, one of the greatest moments I got yours truly got to see in person. That was it still hits with me forever getting to see had that forever getting to see that moment in person.
Yeah, I mean, come on, as a Giants fan, seeing that in person, as a Jets fan, I can't even imagine that glory that you must have felt that day.
Yeah, that was just something that still pinned me. I remember on the plane with the people I went with, right? That invited me to tag along to that I didn't expect it. I just all of a sudden got a couple people I knew got invited to tag along to be at the Super Bowl, and so on a plane where they weren't quite familiar with the show as I have. Like one of them knew a little bit some of the clips for the show because I would share clips from O&A and stuff and Ron and Fez and the Eastside Dave sports program. So I started playing the song from that song gonna that song from Eastside Dave, that Super Bowl song, and I decided to pull it up, and we were listening to it on the as the plane was taxiing toward the runway to take off. We're just singing along with the song, right? And we just started and all of a sudden I noticed a couple people on the plane were dancing. they here dancing. I just cranked. And as we were en route to Indianapolis, and I could tell you being there that was incredible. I just remember the lead up, the whole setup throughout the downtown area, the whole this fan fest thing they did there. NFL experience. There was like a display with every Super Bowl ring up to Super Bowl 45. They had a big display of Super Bowl rings. The zip line, which some of the people I went with thought I was crazy doing it. I did that zip line.
Very cool. Very cool.
I did that zip line. There was they had these two Indy race cars that were painted in the colors of the two teams. I wish they would have made a die cast of the Giants one. That would have been cool to have that in my collection, but they didn't do it.
That's true.
But still, I took a picture with the actual one, and it was just cool getting to see all those things, just the entire lead up to the game, and felt weird being indoors for a football game because and it was warmer than I expected because everything I know from what I hear from what I heard from locals in Indiana in the area was that it might be cold in the Midwest around that time of year. So I didn't expect it was going to be in the 50s most of the time I was there. And but yeah, it was weird being indoors, like actually taking off my jacket that time of year at a football game because it's an indoor venue. So
yeah,
I was able
exactly,
to,
man.
so I was able to take off my jacket and sit there and get to see one of the biggest moments. By the way, I went to the bathroom during a halftime show. I think I think
Yeah,
I
I don't
think I
blame
think
you.
because I wasn't going to spend much home. Like I knew like the 2 minute warning. Start to head out to the bathroom around the 2 minute warning. Went to the bathroom. I think when I got to my seat, I think by the time I got to my seat, like the halftime show was starting, so I caught so whatever I caught most of it. I had to so that there was that the I had to have some stuff that I bought there shipped home. By the way, I
All
had
right,
to
well,
have some.
Dan, let's jump into the song that you just mentioned a second ago. This is in tribute to the Giants winning the Super Bowl.
By the way,
14
this
years
is the
ago today?
best. This is the best Super Bowl song ever.
No doubt about
Right,
it.
right. Yeah, the greatest. We got to really. Uh, I don't know if I can hear the audio from it on my end, but
Oh, you
I
can't you
just
can't hear the audio? Okay, hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. I'm gonna I will be bringing this right back up in a sec. We'll have to do our thing in a sec. I don't understand why that doesn't play sometimes, and you have to convert it. But Dan, real quick, while I convert it, uh, you know, obviously you guys won Super Bowl 42. against the the Patriots, the undefeated Patriots team that is, and then you won 4 years later, Super Bowl 46. Now, obviously, that second one, because you were there, feels a little bit more special to you, I'm sure. But what of those two Super Bowls stands out the most to you?
Well, hey, I have to say that first one was just epic because it's just I hadn't seen a team I'm a fan of win a championship since 1994. Like prior to Super Bowl 42, the last time I had seen a team I'm a fan of win a championship was when my Rangers won the Cup in '94. So it was like, it's my team's about to win a championship. I went nuts. That one because at the time a friend of the family, my mom knew the relative of a city council member at the time. So we're right. So me and my sister were sitting like right in his steps to City Hall, watching the City Hall ceremony that time.
Wow, very cool.
Yes, that one. Of course, Super Bowl 46, I got to see the parade also. I got back to New York in time to attend the parade and stuff. The Daily News, my mom had to get the Daily News when the Giants won Super Bowl 46. So they knew by the time I got back to Queens, they were going to sell out of the Daily News. So my mom was kind enough early in the morning to go to the bodega. She, of course, because this was before my mom, when she was still able to walk before the injury, she was able to walk. She walked with Rosie and Maloney. Rosie Shea was still alive. Both the dogs, Rosie Shea and Mr. Malunigan, to the bodega to make sure to get the Daily News. So I had it for my collection that time. But yeah, I got back in New York in time for the parade. And of course, the hat and the shirt, I didn't have to worry about not getting to them running out of Modell's because they sold it at the stadium as soon as they won it. But that was just special. And I still love to this day reminding any Patriots fans I know about Super Bowl 42.
Well, how could you not? How could you not, man?
Yeah.
This is the one we were talking about, real quick, Dan.
It's Giants time in the Super Bowl. Eli Manning and Antrell Rowe gonna win. Yeah, dominate, baby. Gonna fuck the shit out of Tom Brady.
That's right.
Lawrence Tynes kicking in your face.
Yeah.
Tom Coughlin, give us some bass. Bob Dylan said, gonna fuck the shit out of Tom Brady. Tickle me Elmo, no tackle me Osi. Belichick, Brady, all pussy and pussy. Giants, Cape Fear, Eli's Max Katie, gonna ruin your boat. Badly, Tom Brady. Break it down, Roy Schaefer. Come on.
Back
It's the David Max Sports Program. Subscribe on iTunes, Daddy, and listen on Sirius XM.
Wyclef Jean is from fucking Haiti. Gonna Fuji your shit. Tom Brady. Pirate says, ahoy, matey. Gonna walk the plank and fuck you, Tom Brady. With the Giants, Dabney Coleman is 80. Fucking dagger your ass, Tom Brady. Woo! Yeah! David Max Sports Program. You know what time it is.
There you go, the great Davey Max Sports Program.
Yeah. That
2 years ago.
Yeah, believe me, if I had my way, that would have been a DVD extra on the DVD of the playoff games from that season because I have that box set of
Very true.
of the entire Giants playoff run. I bought. They were selling that box set of Modell's. Even has the division clincher, which I was also at. I was at that division clincher.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
So, funny. But yeah, that was just that was just bringing back some memories as I'm just hearing that, and a couple passengers on that plane taking off from Newark Airport dancing. That was just something amazing, and it's still I will come up with unique ways to mess with Patriots fans to remind them of that Super Bowl. Couple of things. One thing, maybe me wearing a shirt from Super Bowl 42, the championship shirt, showing them pictures of the Daily News headline. Maybe the ticket for the City Hall ceremony. All little evidence of it. I will constantly respond with pictures of.
That's right. So shout out to the great Eastside Dave, by the way, for that great song. And obviously, crazy to think it's already been that long since that Super Bowl. But here we are, Dan. We're coming up to Super Bowl 59 this coming up Sunday. We'll be getting into that in a little bit. Obviously, we talked, look, the build up to the Super Bowl these days is 2 weeks. So you do enough talking about the Super Bowl prior to it. If you want to see even more, we talked about it on our Patreon show this past Sunday. You could subscribe, patreon.com/Best Eaten House Podcast. We'll be getting into it a little bit more. We'll be giving our picks and the point spread and everything at the end of the show before we sign off. But Dan, a couple of things I wanted to get into here at the top. A couple of hot stove notes. Interesting stuff has been popping up. Word is, this is not confirmed yet, but there is a lot of rumors going around that Alex Bregman is close to signing with the Cubs, a 4-year deal, $105 million, a lot less money than he and Scott Boras anticipated. The reason why I bring this up is because this is very close to the situation that Pete Alonso finds himself in, as we are now sitting here recording on the night of February 5th, and Pete Alonso still has not signed. I feel like the fact that Scott Boras is getting Alex Bregman done with now is a good thing for the Mets and Pete Alonso, because that'll be one of the main things now that Boras can focus on. One of his other big clients, Bregman, is about to be taken care of. He's going to be off the market. And then we can focus solely on Pete Alonso. And from everything I'm hearing, it looks like Pete Alonso doesn't really have much of a market outside of the Mets. And it looks like Pete Alonso really only wants to go back to the Mets. I'm sure if another team came out of nowhere and offered him $180, $200 million, he'd go to that team no matter where they were, even if they were playing on Mars. But it seems to me like if the money is similar, and the Mets reportedly have offered a 3-year 70, or in the range of about $68 to $70 million, I'm sure they'd be willing to go a little bit higher for Pete. But also, I find it interesting that we haven't heard anything. The last team we heard connected to Pete Alonso was the Toronto Blue Jays. And I feel like if the Toronto Blue Jays had beaten the Mets offer to Alonso, then Scott Boras would have leaked that. So that news got out to Mets fans, and angry Met fans like me and you would be yelling at Steve Cohen and David Stearns to up their offer and pay Pete Alonso. The fact that that hasn't come out yet kind of tells me maybe that the Blue Jays are offering similar money, or maybe even less than the Mets. Dan, what do you think about this standstill that continues now here in early February? And do you think that Mets and Alonso are going to get it done?
I think they're going to get it done, but they're going to freaking make me sweat it out. And I just feel like tomorrow maybe to maybe bring some grimace mojo to maybe increasing the chances of Pete Alonso signing with the Mets. The green shakes at McDonald's are back on the menu, and they came up with a unique way with the grimaces. They brought back some sort of, I heard about once, some mascot in the 70s. They advertised those green shakes to Grimace's uncle, Grimacy, which is a green grimace. So I guess maybe
it's funny you bring that up. I'm sorry. Continue what you're saying real quick, and then I got a clip to show you.
So I'm guessing the Grimace and his uncle, Grimacy, commanded to appease him and his uncle. Tomorrow, they gotta drink a green shake. If the shake machine's working, get one tomorrow to appease Grimace and his uncle.
Exactly. And if you're not sure what Dan's talking about, because he actually mentioned Grimacy and the green shake and everything to me earlier, and I had never heard of Grimace's uncle. This is what he was talking about.
My uncle Grimacy is coming to visit, and I didn't get him a present.
Ah, a shamrock shake coming up.
Oh, sure, and be Cora House, me little nephew.
Here, Uncle Grimacy.
Oh, you shouldn't have a shamrock shake, I take it. Oh,
Oh, he's got quite the brogue on
Where
him.
on earth can we get more?
There's only one place on earth to get a shamrock shake. McDonald's. But only for a limited time.
I better have one then.
Sure, and be Cora.
Yeah, that's his own Grimacy.
That's the genesis of Grimacy there, Uncle Grimacy.
Yeah, and apparently they announced that the shakes were on the menu. There was a picture of the two of them at doing some press event somewhere in New York, which unfortunately I wasn't lucky enough to be at because I wanted to get a picture with the Grimace.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man.
Yeah, want to get a picture with the Grimace. Just so someone find an area that says somewhere. I don't care. Have somebody have the Grimace freaking knock on my door. I just want a picture with the Grimace.
Yeah, man. So, we continue to wait in limbo to see if the Mets and Alonso figure that out. I don't know. We've been playing this waiting game the whole offseason. I guess it's going to continue now. We're a week out from pitchers and catchers reporting at spring training. So a lot of pressure going on both sides now. And Pete Alonso, I love the guy, but he looks like a fool now for rejecting the Mets contract offer that they offered him last year of 6 years for $158 million. That's a pretty bad decision by Pete and his super agent, Scott Boras. So, he's paying for that now. And it's very unfortunate to see because he'd be taken care of now and have a long-term deal, whereas opposed to right now, he'd be lucky if he gets a 3-year deal. So that's going to be interesting to see. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Yeah, you have anything to add to that, Dan?
Yeah, and then I just feel like this is going to change everything with players who the agent they go with. Because I feel like players are going to be reluctant to go to Scott Boras.
Well, it depends. The tippy-tip top guys like Juan Soto and I'm sure Bryce Harper and guys of that ilk are probably still going to go to Soto. But the guys that are maybe a tier or two down, like the Jordan Montgomerys, like the Pete Alonsos, like those guys that have gotten screwed the last couple of years by Scott Boras and his dumb, at times, negotiating tactics, that's what you're going to have to do. So the guys that are the tippy-top guys, yeah, you could go to Boras and milk them for all the money he's worth. Because if me or you were the agent for Juan Soto, we could have gotten $800 million for that guy. That's how good Juan Soto is. It doesn't take a genius agent to work that deal. But for Pete Alonso, not that easy, So I guess we'll see. I hit the thing a little early, but I did want to touch on, too, that there are a lot of reports going out, Dan, over the last couple of weeks, and it's been heating up, that the Mets are exploring a trade for San Diego's Padres starting pitcher who's on the walk year of his contract, Dylan Cease. Now, if you remember, Dylan Cease is a good pitcher. He threw great against the Mets in the wild card series that they played a couple of years ago. Dylan Cease, is a top of the rotation type guy. He could come in and be a 1. He could come in and be a 1A if you need him. This is a guy that would make a big difference in that Mets rotation, which we are not too enamored with right now. It's okay, but you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping for a lot of good things to happen. We don't know what the deal with Kodai Senga is, if he's going to be healthy. We haven't even gotten an update all offseason on him. So fingers crossed. I hope he's okay. David Peterson, he's a good pitcher. Looks like he's on the up, but this is a guy that also has had trouble staying healthy at times too. So we'll have to, hope that works out. Tyler McGill, who knows about him? They signed Griffin Canning as a guy in the minor leagues. They have Frankie Montas, who, no one's too blown away about, and a relief pitcher, Clay Holmes, that they're trying to turn into a starting pitcher now. So there are a ton of question marks in the Mets rotation. And if they acquired Dylan Cease, that would be a big step in the direction of getting rid of some of those question marks. So what do you think of this trade? And one name I heard that them saying would be in this deal is Jet Williams, the Mets minor league shortstop. Now, I really like Jet Williams. I think Jet Williams is going to be a good major league baseball player. I don't know if I would be that comfortable in trading him, but you know what? In a season like this right now, especially if they bring back Pete Alonso, I would make that trade and bring in Dylan Cease, even if it meant giving up Jet Williams. What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. I would do the same thing. I just feel like the Mets have way too many shortstops in the wings, and just there's not really an opening there. There's just how many players are we going to have? How many catchers and shortstops are we going to have that we're actually going to be of any use in a big club when we have just too many players in one position? So I just feel like it's really it's just it's a productive move by the Mets to make, because when you got too many players in one position, use that surplus to get something you need.
Yeah, man, no doubt about it. And then you look at the Mets rotation, things really start to come into focus. One of the proposed deals that I heard people kicking around was Tyler McGill, Jet Williams, and I forget who the third guy was. It was a prospect, though, going to them, going to the Padres for Dylan Cease. I really like that move, too, because it moves Tyler McGill out and gets him out of the shuffle, which, I'm sick of Tyler McGill. I've seen enough of that guy. He's not the same pitcher he was a couple of years ago when he came up and replaced Jacob deGrom and looked like he could be, a top of the rotation type guy, or at least a major league pitcher. And I'm not as convinced of that these days with good old Tyler McGill there. But if you're looking at the rotation now you minus those guys we just talked about, and you put Dylan Cease 1, Kodai Senga 2, Sean Manaea 3, David Peterson 4, and Frankie Montas 5. Suddenly, I'm looking at that rotation and I'm saying, okay, I like that 5. I'm not crazy about Frankie Montas, but if he's your number 5 guy, that's not really a big deal at all. What do you think about that rotation, Dan?
That'd be pretty big. I feel like that'd be a rotation that could maybe compete in October. I feel like,
yeah,
and I feel like that's the kind of thing you're going to need in October in the end, especially when you're facing these tough opponents. Like, I just felt like our pitching got the job done a lot during the season, got us to that point the NLCS, but I just felt like we were overmatched. Yeah. Because you needed a different level of pitching to face that tough Dodgers team. What was needed, and
no doubt about it.
They did not have that ace, and I felt like even Senga coming back too late, it just felt like it was put in a bad spot. Senga coming back from injury that late in the season, because I feel like for a pitcher to come back from injury, they need to kind of have that time to get back and up to that level. And I feel like Senga might have a better outing this year if he recovers well. If he's gotten hopefully he has a normal off season, a normal spring training, and he'll be more being able to get ready for that at a normal pace for a pitcher.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, Dan, and I think that that just goes to show the type of impact that a guy like this would make on the rotation itself. I think you made a great point too about having to keep up with the Joneses, aka keep up with the Dodgers. You have to, if your goal is to win the World Series, you got to find a way to get past them at some point. You might get lucky like the Mets did in 2000 when the Braves got picked off by the Cardinals in the first round. You might get lucky and something like that happens, but you can't count on it. You have to count on, if the Mets are good enough to get to the NLCS, they're probably going to have to go through LA. And, bringing in a guy like Dylan Cease could make all that difference. He's that top of the rotation guy. And just like you said, Dan, look, I love Sean Manaea. I don't want to knock Sean Manaea at all. And I think he's got a great chance to repeat the great job he did this year. But against that Dodgers lineup, you could be as crafty of a vet as you want. He's maybe a 5-inning, 3 or 2 run pitcher against them on a good night. On a bad night, it's probably more like 3 innings, 6 runs. So I don't want to knock Manaea, but unfortunately, against that insane Dodgers lineup, that's probably the best you're going to get out of a guy like Manaea against that lineup. And who knows with Kodai Senga, because we haven't seen a healthy Kodai Senga for the most part in 2 years. Aside from that, Dylan Cease is a guy you can plug in to be that guy. That if you need a guy to go out there and go 6 or 7 innings and allow 2 or 3 runs and hold that Dodger lineup down, I feel confident that if the Mets add a guy like Dylan Cease, they could rely on him to do that in a big spot when they need it,
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing about having top of the line pitching is maybe you get a pitcher that could throw more innings. maybe take off that stress off the bullpen, which I just feel like when it got to certain points in the season, that bullpen looked like it was worn out.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. That's something that comes back to bite you in the ass come playoff time. We always used to hear that about Joe Girardi when he would manage those Yankee teams from 2009 to 2017, whenever his last year was. That he would always burn those bullpens out. And that's why, aside from that 09 team, the Yankees, according to a lot of Yankee fans you listen to, say that he didn't really have that success in the playoffs because, aside of maybe a Mariano Rivera or such, the bullpen would be burned out by the time they got to the playoffs. So there is a lot of interesting ways to look at that. So the Mets are definitely in on that right now. One last hot stove thing I did want to bring up is that the Mets have made a habit of signing former Yankees this offseason, but the Yankees returned the favor in the last couple of days. Not a big signing because any guy coming off a 3-10 season with a 6 ERA, that's not going to exactly knock your socks off for your team to be signing. But the Yankees did sign former Mets and Cleveland Guardians/Indians pitcher Carlos Carrasco to a 1-year deal. I don't even think it's guaranteed. I think it's he's just going to be fighting for a spot. Is it a great signing in my opinion? No, but hey, if the Yankees could milk a little bit out of this guy, it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, it's nothing, and that's questions how much of that they're going to get out of Carrasco, because it just seemed like he couldn't handle New York well.
Well, let's be honest, Dan. That 2022, he had a very good year. He won 15 games that year. He was one of the best. He was one of the Mets' most reliable pitchers that year. Last year he kind of came back down to earth when he went back to Cleveland. But that 2022 season he had with the Mets was just out of this world, and you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I have to give him credit for that. But I just feel like he didn't adjust well to the pitch clock. I feel like.
No, and I think you're right about that. I think the pitch clock is one of the things that hurt him.
Yeah, I just feel like that because I've said in this day and age, I honestly do not think a pitcher like Steve Traxel would not have the success he would in the pitch clock era. I feel like.
You're probably right. I mean, there's a reason why they called the guy. They used to call the guy the human rain delay for a reason because he would take forever to throw a pitch, and I think you're right about that.
Yeah, and I kind of want to pick his brain a little bit. I would love to have Steve Traxel on the show one of these days and talk to him about that, what he thinks of the pitch clock era, and if he physically thinks he can handle that. Because I feel like I would get a better. I feel like he'd be an interesting guest to get just an inkling of what that's got to be like for someone who's pitched and a pitcher who we remember like a long time. I still remember back in the day going to see. I remember I used to joke with my mom. I says, "Yeah, this is gonna take a while. This is Steve Traxel pitching today." When I saw him pitch, I just knew you pretty much know the time I'm gonna walk in the door based on that. Based on this fact, Steve Traxel's pitching today. Even though I had to give credit, Steve Traxel seemed to pitch quicker when there was no runners on base. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh no, that's the thing. He was pretty quick with no runners on, but as soon as a runner came on, boy, that came to a screeching halt.
Yeah, because I remember the pace of that game went pretty quick. That game that division clincher. I was at that division clincher in 2006 at Shea Stadium. I was still there. I still remember celebrating like crazy that game, seeing that in person. That game went pretty quick.
Yeah, it did. That game. Yeah, you're right. That game was done really quick.
Yeah. The weird part is when I re-look at that game, that broadcast of that game, I noticed you see in the background they show a shot of a fan holding a WOW sign.
Do they really? That's pretty funny.
Yeah. This is like a sign that had WOW stickers on it.
The old Opie and Anthony WOW sticker.
Yeah, I noticed that when I rewatch a game, and that was around the time I found out, because I remember prior to that, I was I didn't have an XM subscription then. I was copying. I'm sorry, O&A. I was pirating broadcasts of the show on prior to 2008. pirate broadcast of the show during those first couple of years of the XM years, up until I had a subscription.
Yes,
But
exactly.
I was doing that up until I had a subscription. Then I had a subscription. And I just sometimes record the show off because I had one of those XM units that could record this, that could record stuff. So I recorded it and then listened to it every day. But I remember doing that, and I remember hearing like ONA on terrestrial radio again. Around that time in 2006, they were running that commercial a lot. If you remember, I don't know if you remember during the playoffs, they were running that commercial a lot.
Yes, I remember. You're right. And with that, Dan, let's jump over to a little hockey now, as I want to do a quick check-in on the Rangers and Bruins score right now. As me and you are recording this, Rangers and Bruins are playing at the Garden on TNT tonight. A little primetime hockey. 10 minutes gone in the first period, no score, and the Rangers are really clamped down defensively. Haven't even allowed a shot on goal from Boston yet. So big shout out to the Rangers D, which by the way took a hit today because in that game, we'll talk about Adam Ekstrom in a minute, but in that game, Euro Vakinen, one of the guys that came over from Anaheim in the Jacob Trouba deal and has played very well since coming over, is ill tonight and will not be playing. So the young Zach Jones is inserted back in the lineup. Hope he plays well. I always liked Zach Jones. But Dan, we were talking about the Mets involved in trade talks. We know the trade winds have been surrounding the Rangers all year, and they pulled off a pretty damn big one at the end of last week. Me and you covered it on the Patreon show, patreon.com/BestEatenHousePodcast. But we're going to talk about it right now, too. And this one is a biggie. The Rangers trade their former first-round pick, Philip Hedl, a very good young defenseman, Victor Mancini, and a 2025 first-round pick, which, by the way, in a genius move by, Chris Drury, it's a top 13 protected pick, too. So if the Rangers team does crap out and not make the playoffs, if they finish in the top 13, they don't got to worry about it. They still retain their pick, and the Canucks will get the Rangers pick next year. So good move there by Chris Drury protecting that. So they send those guys to Vancouver for former New York Ranger JT Miller, former Ottawa Senator, and now Ranger, former also Vancouver Canuck, defenseman Eric Brandstrom, who's a 25-year-old that has played quite a bit in the NHL at this point. He came up as a young kid, former 15th overall pick with the Ottawa Senators, and has played a couple of full seasons at the NHL level. And then they also got back a young college defenseman who's not even signed yet, but the Rangers acquired his rights, a young 20-year-old defenseman named Jackson Dorrington. So the Rangers getting a little bit for today in JT Miller and a little bit for tomorrow, and these two guys coming with him. Dan, I know it was a kind of a polarizing trade, and it took me maybe a day or so to get used to it. But I got to say, the more I look at this trade, the more I like it. And I'm thrilled that as much as it hurt, give up Philip Hedl, because I do like Hedl a lot. And I hope that he continues to turn into a great player. I'm glad they didn't give up Mika Zibanejad, because now they moved Mika to the right wing, and it allows that offense to open up more with JT Miller, Artemi Panarin, and Mika Zibanejad on that top line, Dan. So that's a hell of a top line. And what do you think about this trade?
It seems to be so far so good, and I'm like pumped. I feel like this team's just gonna carry just one heck of a momentum. I mean, just a momentum that I'm gonna be celebrating like I just have a feeling it's gonna be leading to me making a lot of noise in front of the TV, causing Mr. Malunigan to bark.
Yeah, man. Let's hope the Rangers give us a lot to be happy about with that, because so far since JT Miller's come over, two games, 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists. You got to give the guy credit. He's looked good since coming over.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully we'll get a couple of more months of Mr. Malunigan being able to run to the couch if he hears Sam Rosen's voice.
Wow, you see who's in the middle of the Rangers and Bruins tonight, who they got in between the benches, is former Ranger and, for a brief period of time, former Boston Bruin, Rick Nash. So pretty cool to see Rick Nash there.
Yeah, that is. That's just bringing back so many memories of that too, of his time there with the Rangers. So many great moments. Wish we could have saw him get that cup. So many nearly winning a Stanley Cup moments. Like I meant some of those to this day since 2014. It's hard for me not to want to boo any members of the 2014 LA Kings. Remember, how how I mentioned with the Mets how ever since 2006 I had a habit of booing every member whenever they're at bat, and there was a member of the 2006 Cardinals that at bat I'd be booing them. And remember that story I told you when I was at a random game in 2012 when I was visiting the O&A in Cleveland. I attended a game in Cleveland. It was between they were called the Indians then, between them and against the Angels, and they were wondering why I was booing Pujols every time he was at bat. And I mentioned it at the 2006 NLCS. I haven't gotten over that. It was the same thing with the 2014 like I haven't gotten over the Rangers losing that Stanley Cup Finals, and it still feels weird that Jonathan Quick is on our team now.
Yeah, man. Well, that's what I was going to say. I know there was one guy from the 2014 Kings that you weren't booing this Sunday at Madison Square Garden when the Rangers beat the Golden Knights 4-2. Goaltender Jonathan Quick, who's been a very solid backup here since he's come to the New York Rangers, becomes the first American goalie to win 400 games. As obviously much of a villain as Jonathan Quick can be in New York Rangers history, I think our fan base has embraced him as the backup and a guy that grew up. He's one of us. He grew up a Rangers fan. He loves the 94 team. And now to come here and for him to be the first American to win 400 games and do it in a Ranger uniform, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And maybe some of that pain will get a little bit eased if the Rangers win a cup. I'll maybe have that pain. I'll have that pain a little. That pain will be eased a little bit because until we win that cup, those moments still hit me. That one, and then coming up short in 2015, like that team just felt like we were gonna win it, and it still shocked me that we lost Game 7. That one, and then a couple of other times we lost to a team from Florida when it felt like we were gonna go all the way.
Yep, that's right. And, if we're going to be going all the way this year, Dan, unfortunately, they're going to have to do it without Adam Edstrom. As Adam Edstrom, we just found out he's got a lower body injury. He's going to be out 2 to 3 months with this injury. And it's such a shame. This kid has come up, has played at such a high level this year on the fourth line, which, by the way, the fourth line carried the Rangers for about 2 or 3 weeks, in recent times. And, between Sam Carrick playing well, obviously whatever Matt Rempe adds is incredible. And Adam Edstrom, him not being there on that fourth line is a big hit.
Yeah, it does. It feels kind of bad, but what could you do? It just happened, and it's just we're going to have to try to power through, and I feel like this team will be able to power through, but it does suck.
Well, the guy that they are turning to now, who, by the way, has basically been benched since November, is Jimmy Vesey. And it's going to be very interesting because Vesey has apparently been in Laviolette's doghouse for a little while now. He didn't have that great of a start to the season after a very strong year last year in Laviolette's first year. So it's interesting to see how Vesey fell out of favor so quickly. And then I had a couple of friends actually at Rangers casino night talking about how Jimmy Vesey was drunk there, talking about how he wanted to get the hell out of off the Rangers because they're not playing him. He's stuck in the press box. So it's very interesting to see how things work out now. And now Jimmy Vesey is getting a second chance.
Yeah, I really hope Jimmy Vesey runs with the opportunity to that he's getting here. I just feel like he'll run with the opportunity, and he's got to.
Well, let's hope, man. Let's hope you're right about that. I think there's a good shot. Vesey's a pro. There's a reason why they brought him back here in the first place. I've always been a fan of Vesey, and let's hope that maybe he can add a little bit more of that grit to the fourth line and keep that line moving. Now, obviously, Rangers and Bruins going at it tonight. 6:42 left in the first. As we're doing this right now, they just took a TV timeout. No score. Only 5 shots total. Rangers are out shooting them 4-1. So really defensive affair to kick things off. But after tonight, the Rangers will stay home and play the Pittsburgh Penguins 7 p.m. on Friday night. So look, this thing is not going to let up, man. I mean, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, every single time the Rangers go out there, it's going to be against a good team. You listen to this stretch coming up. Obviously, they're going against Boston tonight and Pittsburgh on Friday. Then after that, it's the Blue Jackets, who's another good team. The Buffalo Sabres are a bad team, but I mean, and by the way, too, we have to factor in that after Saturday night, the Rangers don't play again until February 22nd because they have the Four Nations face-off coming up, which I don't know. I have some thoughts on that. Maybe we'll get into that next week, but I think this is kind of a waste of time in the middle of a regular season, especially when it's only 4 countries. Who gives a shit? But then, the Rangers come back against the Sabres. But then after that, it's going to be the Penguins again, the Islanders, the Maple Leafs, the Predators, the Islanders again, the Capitals, the Senators, the Blue Jackets. I mean, there are going to be, it's going to be tough games every single time the Rangers go out there. And the way that the Eastern Conference is bunched up, I heard them talking about it the other day, and actually Mika Zibanejad said it, which it was really good to hear Mika after probably his best game of the season, or at least his best game since October. The other night, a goal and 2 assists, a 3-point game, his first multi-point game since November. So Mika came out after the game and said, hey, it's the playoffs now. We have to win every single night to get ourselves back in the playoffs. Sure, the Rangers are only 5 points out of a playoff spot right now, technically, but they have about 7 teams that are competing with them for 2 spots. So it's going to be a really tight squeeze all the way down the stretch, and the Rangers basically can't afford to lose any of these games.
Yeah, exactly. They need to take advantage of these, and they need to especially take advantage of every games against divisional opponents to sneak in the playoffs that way.
Yeah, it's true, man. Now, a couple other things I did want to get to as we wrap up the Rangers there. I wanted to get to a little football. We'll talk Jets and one Giants point, too, I thought you'll be interested in. But the Jets quick. The Jets are filling out their coaching staff. Aaron Glenn continues to make his decisions. They brought in a play caller in Tanner Edstrom, or Eggstrom, I forget how you say his name, from the Detroit Lions, who's supposedly pretty good. First-time offensive coordinator. The Jets' new general manager, Darren Moogie, has gone out and signed a couple of guys to come in to the coaching staff now alongside that, and he brought in a scout from the Denver Broncos, which, look, I've made it clear I don't know anything about Moogie, but his resume, the guy pretty much he got to the Denver Broncos in 2015, and they won a Super Bowl that year, and then every year after that they got worse. So, look, I hope Moogie's the right guy. I just don't know if he is or not. I'm keeping an open mind. But the one thing I did want to hit on, though, is that the Aaron Rodgers question continues to still hang over the New York Jets and head coach Aaron Glenn. I don't understand. The best option for the Jets this year is bringing Aaron Rodgers back. And the fact that it's taking the Jets this long to confirm if he's coming back or not is just annoying me, man. It's going to tell me a lot of what Aaron Glenn is going to be as a head coach, depending on his decision, if they're going to keep Aaron Rodgers or not. If they want to keep Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to say, you know what? This guy is all about winning. He wants to win, and he realizes that Aaron Rodgers, for at least this 1 year, is his best opportunity to do that in the quickest fashion possible. If he doesn't want Aaron Rodgers, well, that means that he's resigned to have a 4-13 or a 5-12 season, and he wants this to be a quote-unquote rebuilding year. I have no interest in that. I will not sit through a season like that. If the Jets decide to move on from Aaron Rodgers, I, as a Jets fan, decide to move on from the Jets. Now, I'll always have the Jets in me. I'll always love them. But, just like I was angry at the Mets to start last season, I'll be angry at the Jets to start this season. And there'll be a lot of hostility. But what do you think, Dan? What do you think about this decision still hanging over the head? The guy's been the head coach now for a week or two. You'd think he'd have an idea if he wants to keep, maybe one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time or not.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like he needs to keep Aaron Rodgers. If they're gonna win, they got to keep Aaron Rodgers. I think he would want to win. I feel like if this is something that he needs to prove himself that they can win. And this is the best answer. And they need to make that decision to keep Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that, just like you said, I think that's the Jets' best path to win in 2025 is Aaron Rodgers. And whether some Jet fans like that or not, that's the fact. So,
yep,
deal with
exactly.
it.
And they need to have that plan in place ready in the draft, to draft that quarterback, which I feel like will benefit from being under Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you're right. And speaking of the draft, there are a lot of people talking about quarterback Jackson Dart, who had a really good pro day for the Senior Bowl. And they're having everything now as all the draft prospects gather around and get ready for the combine coming up now. And Jackson Dart is a quarterback that was, looked at more as like a day 2 or day 3 type guy that really started to dart, no pun intended, up the boards after he had a really nice day the other day. So some people have even mocked him going to the Jets at number 7. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I wouldn't mind, me and you've said it ad nauseum. The Jets need to draft a quarterback this year. And it looks like that could be, one of the options, Jackson Dart, whether you believe that he's going to be one of the early ones or not. Hey, I'd like to see the Jets draft somebody else at number 7. And then I would even trade back into the first round to trade a guy to pick a guy like that and sit him for a year behind Aaron Rodgers. But, we'll see what happens there. Speaking of the draft, though, Dan, I did want to bring up this Giants point. And I thought that you'd be very interested in this because, look, we know the Giants got knocked a lot for winning that pointless game against the Colts, and it hurt their opportunity to get that number 1 pick. And, we'll see how much that hurts the Giants, just like a few years ago when the Jets beat the Jaguars and it screwed them out of, Trevor Lawrence. And now 5 years later, the Jets are still in quarterback turmoil because of that. Now, the thing is, the Giants now, from what I'm seeing, are getting mocked to get Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, at number 3. I'll show you the mock draft because this is actually starting to break the Giants' way because if you're not aware, Myles Garrett, the star pass rusher from the Cleveland Browns, announced on, I think, Instagram, whatever, that he requested a trade. So he wants to move on from the Browns. The Browns are now in need of another pass rusher to take his place. And it just so happens that there happen to be a really good one of those in this draft right now. Abdul Carter from Penn State is one of the biggest defensive prospects in the draft right now. And what I'm seeing is that Tennessee right now is being mocked. And let's just say this is a mock draft, but there's a lot of thought put behind this where Tennessee, who just drafted Will Levis, is already looking to move on. But it looks like that they like Cameron Ward, the quarterback out of Miami, who kind of flew under the radar this year behind Shedeur Sanders. But he, once again, had another good pro day. So Cam Ward has kind of leapfrogged everybody to that number 1 spot because it looks like Tennessee is hot on him. And then at 2, yeah, sure, you could say the Browns definitely need a quarterback too, but it looks like the Browns are liking Abdul Carter there in the number 2 spot. And a lot of people are saying Carter could be the best prospect in this entire draft. So that could be a reason why maybe the Browns agree with that and make him the number 2 pick, which, Dan, would mean that Shedeur Sanders would fall right in the Giants' lap at number 3. What do you think about that?
That would be a good thing. Like the Giants would be in a position that there'd be 2 quarterbacks available. They need to pounce on that. I mean, the Giants really badly need a quarterback, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
this would fall right. And if it's this falling on our lap, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, what do you think? I know a lot of people are skeptical of Sanders because, look, I mean, let's be honest, the Colorado teams that, their schedule wasn't too loaded with talent. It wasn't like they played, a schedule that a team, from the SEC or something would have played. So what do you think about maybe the talent level? Are you worried that he might not transition to the NFL?
I'm hoping he was maybe being ready for this. Maybe I don't. So I'm guessing maybe he's playing at a level that's maybe showing that he could handle the NFL. It's a little tough to judge, but I feel like some experts maybe got it. That knocked on that he'll be ready for it, because sometimes we've seen quarterbacks sometimes show up sometimes in places that you don't see them facing big opponents or something, and they turn out well. So it's just such a big guessing game.
Yeah, you're right about that, man. Definitely right. So one last thing. I guess we'll wrap up with the Knicks. Screw it. We'll talk football now. So we'll wrap up with the Super Bowl here. And then we'll finish up with some basketball talk real quick as we round things out here at the end of the show. Super Bowl 59 is now this Sunday, Dan. Just a couple of days away from the Super Bowl. It's going to be your division rival, Philadelphia Eagles, going against the Chiefs. Even though I believe I spelled Chiefs wrong there.
That's okay. It's okay. You're like that commercial with the groundskeeper that messed up. I don't know if you remember that commercial that played at nauseum during football season.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember that.
I do, but it is the Chiefs. There we go. It's all fixed up, and they only got the Chiefs right now as a 1.5 favorites. I don't know, Dan. What do you think? There's a lot going into this right now. The Chiefs going for 3 straight Super Bowls, looking to become the first team ever. Do you think they do it, and do you think they cover?
I feel like this Super Bowl is going to be a high scoring on both ends, and I feel like it's going to come to a couple of key defensive plays in the fourth quarter. I feel like that's what I feel like. It's going to come down to a couple of defensive plays. And as much as I hate to say this, the Chiefs are probably going to win this by a touchdown and a field goal.
Wow, so you're saying that the Chiefs are going to win it by 10?
Yeah, exactly. I just have a weird inkling that's going to happen. And maybe, as much as I can't say that the Eagles, you already know by now why I can't stand the Eagles. And you already know why, and you probably, and of course the Chiefs, I can't stand because of those dumb Swiftie fans and the camera always on fucking Taylor Swift all the fucking time. I'm gonna be sick of it. Like, if the Chiefs win it, I'm not even gonna watch the trophy presentation. I would normally stick around for the trophy presentation. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to see shots of Taylor Swift's face. So as soon as if the Chiefs win, as soon as the clock hits 0. I meant, like, I remember, like, last year it was very close to around. I had it set to record in case the Super Bowl ran long. The new episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think it was like a couple of minutes before that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm started. Last year I had flipped as soon as the Chiefs won that game in overtime. That touchdown was scored. I just flipped to the channel and I was watching the new episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. This time, of course, there's no new episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, I'm just gonna click the channel, probably go to sleep or something. But yeah, that's what I'll do if the Chiefs win. Turn off the TV as soon as the clock hits 0. But I also have to say, I'm definitely going to the bathroom during that halftime show.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you for that. So you got the Chiefs by 10. I'm with you. I mean, I think it's at least going to be by a touchdown. So it looks like me and you are both going with the Chiefs and both taking the points minus 1.5. So, hey, it'll be really interesting to see the last football Sunday of the 2024 NFL season. So very interesting there.
Yep. The Super Bowl and over in the, I think the locals pronounce it New Orleans. I think I heard.
New Orleans, however you want to say it.
Yeah, New Orleans. I don't know. I've heard my grandmother say it New Orleans. Because my grandmother, even though she came to this country, my grandmother on my mother's side came to the United States via Nicaragua. Guess where she lived when she first came to this country? New Orleans.
New Orleans, nice. All right.
That is where she lived. So apparently, where she lived when she first came into this country. Apparently, so she still talks up. I meant how old is, but she still talks about it. And I've seen my grandmother talk about like some jazz performers she's seen back in the day because of how old she is when she first came to this country. And one of these days, if I get my license, I gotta. She wants to visit New Orleans one more time. I hear, but my grandmother has roots in New Orleans.
All right, there you go. So, there we go. So I wanted to wrap up now with some basketball. Obviously, football is in the rearview mirror. Let's wrap up with some basketball talk here at the end of the show. Obviously, we'll get into the Knicks in one sec, but I did want to get your thoughts, even though, like I said, we talked about it on Patreon. If you want to hear our thoughts right off the cuff, patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. It's only $5 a month to get in. And you could get all of our bonus content there. But Dan, we talked about it on Sunday, the Luka Doncic trade. I don't know. I smell a rat somewhere in the NBA. I still can't believe that the NBA commissioner, the joke that he is, let this garbage trade go through with Luka Doncic going from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. Dan, what are your thoughts on this ridiculous trade?
Well, this has to be up there in the top 3 of dumb trades in sports history that teams made, all right? I mean, you got some dumb trades. You got when you go way back when the older Met fans who remember 77 will talk about when Tom Seaver was traded for practically nothing. He was traded to the Reds for practically nothing. You also got when the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts to the Dodgers for practically nothing. And you got this one here, the Mavericks trading Luka Doncic to the Lakers for practically nothing. It's up there in the history of dumb trades teams have made.
And not only that, too. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's a dumb trade for all those reasons, but it's also, you're trading Luka Doncic, who's 25 years old and just led your team to the NBA Finals last year. A team, by the way, which wasn't very good, and he put them on his back and carried them to the finals. And then you turn around and you trade him to the Lakers for a 32-year-old guy that is never healthy. This is the 1 year he's been healthy, and you're trading for him. He's basically guaranteed to get hurt at maybe later this year or next year. Like, it makes no sense to make this trade. I've heard that the way I've heard people describe this trade is, it would be like if the Bills traded Josh Allen to the Jets for Aaron Rodgers, because it makes no sense. Of course, the Jets would do that trade. Look, I love Aaron Rodgers, but if you're going to give me a 27 or 28-year-old franchise quarterback, I'll do that trade every day of the week. But it makes no sense for the Bills to make that trade, just like it makes no sense for the Dallas Mavericks to make this trade. This is the thing that, I heard somebody that lives in Dallas say this, and it makes a lot of sense. The Mavericks play in the same town as the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise in the world. By far, the Cowboys are the most valuable franchise. And the face of Dallas sports, undeniably, is Luka Doncic. No one on the Dallas Cowboys, no one on any of the other teams, the Dallas Stars, any of the other franchises that play there. The guy that stood above all else in the Dallas sports, space, whatever you want to say, was Luka Doncic. And to trade him to a team in the Western Conference is insane. I still can't believe it happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's just shocking that they did this trade, and it's gotta. I hear people. I know someone who lives in a Dallas area. Of course, this person I know in the Dallas area is a Knicks fan, but I was he's been hearing about people lose their mind over this trade in that area.
Well, think about it, Dan. It would be like if the Giants in 2006 traded Eli Manning to the Eagles for an aging Donovan McNabb. You know what I mean? Like it just makes no sense.
Yeah, it just makes no sense, and it's just it's got. I have to admit that there's got. I don't know. I don't know. People in Dallas lose their mind like in New York if something like that happened. But man, there's got to be some people freaking. So
yeah,
somebody's got to check. There's got to be crisis prevention hotlines in Dallas. Got to be through the roof over this trade.
Exactly. God forbid, there are any John Cena. We're talking about this, and somebody mentioned it on Twitter. But if there are any John Cena and Luka Doncic Dallas fans out there, like you said, call the crisis hotline because they had a pretty bad Saturday night. Speaking of that, though, Dan, we're on the basketball right now, so let's just finish up with the Knicks. And the Knicks had a pretty good last few games, man. The Knicks are looking real good right now. They went out, they played a back-to-back on Monday and Tuesday. Jalen Brunson willed the Knicks to victory on Monday, dropping 42 in an effort where it looked like the Knicks were doing everything they could to lose to the Houston Rockets, and Jalen Brunson just put them on his back and carried them to victory. Just a great run by the captain there. And then they swept the back-to-back with a big win in Toronto the next night, 121-115. It was a big victory. Once again, Brunson had 28, 5 assists, but he also hit the shot that basically sealed the game. Hey, the Knicks are playing great basketball right now, Dan, and they're right there. They are right behind the Boston Celtics in the standings. And, even though the Cleveland Cavs are pretty much above everybody else, that they've played 50 games and they've won 40 of them. So they're pretty damn good. But the Knicks right now sit just 2 games behind the Celtics for not only second place in the Eastern Conference, but first place in our division. So things are going pretty good right now.
Yeah, exactly. That is just something else. The Knicks are just once again showing they're gonna. I feel like they're gonna have one incredible run this year, and hopefully this time they seal the deal. This team is just. They're playing on another level.
Yeah,
and
defensively too.
Yeah. I just had a feeling the Knicks were going to win that game. Like something that inkling watching that game just felt like it was going to happen, and it happened. And man, I went nuts. I may have sounded like some of the stuff I was yelling when the Knicks won that game. Maybe sounded similar to almost that character in the Michael Douglas in the movie Falling Down, but man, that was something else.
Yeah, man. No, it's true. It's true. It was great. I mean, it was a great, unexpected, not unexpected because the Knicks are so good at this point. You expect them to win every night. But the way it was looking on Monday, it wasn't looking too good. And especially the Rockets are one of the best fourth quarter teams in basketball when they enter the fourth quarter with a lead, which they did. And the Knicks just erased that lead, stole that victory. It was a big win for them, and then did it again to a crappy Toronto team the next night on the road. So just great job by the Knicks to just keep pounding away, and got a tip of the cap to Karl Anthony Towns as well, who played both games, by the way, even though he's been banged up this year, and they every once in a while like to sit him on the back end of back-to-backs. He had a great game last night, 27 points and 20 rebounds. So love that guy. But Dan, the one thing we've talked about all year is that if the Knicks are going to go deep in the playoffs this year, they're going to have to add depth. And one thing that has unfortunately been coming into our purview over the last couple of weeks is that Mitchell Robinson is not going to come back. And, me and you were just saying it a week or two ago about how the Knicks can't rely on him. And then Ian Begley just put out this report earlier today that the Knicks are not even talking about Mitchell Robinson returning internally, which that is very, very troubling. This is a guy that we were told that was going to be back by Christmas. We are now in the first week of February, and he's not even close to coming back yet. He's not even been cleared for contact. So the Knicks are going to have to pick up a guy to replace him and another guy probably at the trade deadline. Dan, what do you think when you hear that Mitchell Robinson isn't even close?
I just can't believe they didn't plan this accordingly, and hopefully they. I have a feeling the Knicks are going to make these two trades to get that depth for that. But I knew it right. I sensed it right in the beginning. They says, no, this does not sound good. I've heard that. I've seen this before when they said that back by Christmas. Somehow I just have a feeling that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, we were talking about it.
And I just,
kind of like when
the
Mets tell you, it's kind of like when you hear the Mets say, "Oh, he's gonna be back at the All-Star break," and when you hear the Mets say that, it's like, "Uh-oh, he's done for the year." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just knew that. Oh, this is not good. Like I had a feeling I called it right on the money.
Yeah.
If you remember, I called it on the money earlier when I heard that, so I knew right off the bat this didn't sound good.
Well, let's hope the Knicks have a plan to replace him and add after that too. And then, Dan, the last thing on our agenda is the next game for the Knicks is going to be Saturday night, 8:30 against the Celtics. So if the Knicks win tonight, depending what the Celtics do, that game could actually be for a share of first place if the Celtics lose between now and then. But if everything stays the same, it could be the Knicks pulling to within one game of the Celtics with a win on Saturday night. So, it's a big moment for this team. And, the Celtics are kind of like the Knicks version of the Mets Atlanta Braves or, the Yankees Boston Red Sox. So it's one more hill to climb, baby. And the Knicks got to get over the defending NBA champion Celtics.
Yeah, I just have a feeling the Knicks are going to win this. And, man, if they win this, I feel like this is going to carry a lot of momentum the rest of the way if they win this one.
Yeah, man. Totally with you on that. So, I think that's just about going to do it for us now on this edition of Best Seat in the House podcast. We wrap up there with the Knicks and everything else. We covered a lot of ground tonight, Dan. So, a lot of great things. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Before we get out of here, Dan, you have anything to plug for yourself?
All right, just for one thing, I gotta correct something I said last week. Remember, I said if the Mets re-signed Pete Alonso, we were gonna eat that. I remember there was a spicy burger on the menu at Burger King that I was questioning eating. That I was gonna eat it. That ghost pepper Whopper, it's not on the menu anymore. So we got to figure out something else that'd be insane to eat. That might be insanely spicy. If the Mets sign Pete Alonso, because we will whatever it is, it'll be done on air if that happens. So
well, to be fair, you said you'd eat that. I forget what I said I would do, but I did not agree to eat the hot spicy Whopper, a Whopper.
But yeah, it's gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna. I'll figure out something. So unfortunately, you won't be seeing my face sweat like crazy trying to eat that. Even though I don't think ghost pepper is as spicy as I think it is. Because I made something spicy, but I don't recall ever eating anything. I think I may have ate some ghost pepper. I don't know, but I think the one I might be confusing it with Carolina Reaper, which I've never ate anything with that. I hear that's the one that'll cause some crazy stuff. That might cause something out of a regular show episode. But anyway, I gotta plug my Twitter account, Bobo103NYC. In Instagram, Bobo718DK. YouTube's one word Daniel Curl, and you're gonna see some hilarious stuff there on my YouTube. So definitely that. And remember, Best Seat in the House podcast started to get 2 weeks early access to most of the YouTube videos, unless something I feel like needs to be like shown right away. And then also you get also Bobo's Trackside Minute. You saw the latest Bobo's Trackside Minute not too long ago. Patreon subscribers it's only $5. It's a great deal, less than the cost of a round trip on the subway. So definitely subscribe to that.
That's right. So we're just about done, and puck drop just happened here in the second period at the Garden. No score here, and that's not going to do it for us today. I want to thank everybody once again for hanging out with us. As always, don't forget we are actually right on the cusp of getting monetized on YouTube. So if you help us get our watch hours up over the next week or two, and we do get monetized, we'll actually be doing more live streams rather than just the pre-taped videos like we do on here normally. So if you can give us a hand, hopefully you'll be joining us live. We could have a lot more fun together. So I want to thank everybody for all the support. We are coming up on 3 years of this show in a month. So it's been a long journey, and we're finally just about there. We appreciate all the support from everyone all on the way. Like we always say, don't forget to check us out on patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. So for my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, and we'll catch you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend.
It was a good